This is the Edify Podcast for the servant.
Hey everybody, welcome to Edify. I am here today with a main squeeze, Tucker Wallace. Tucker, what's your full name?
My full name is William Tucker Wallace.
William Wallace, ladies and gentlemen. I have William Wallace on the podcast.
Oh, man.
So, Tuck, we've been friends, I don't know, 6 or 7 years maybe?
It's been a long time now.
Yeah. I think Stone was just born, or a little bit before Stone was born. Stone's 7 now. But Tucker is originally from Tennessee. What part?
Around Jackson, Tennessee, in a small town called Milan.
Okay, Milan.
Yeah,
Milan.
Not Milan.
Yeah, Milan. Tucker, you are, how old are you?
I just turned 28 back in January.
28.
Old.
You are married to the Megan.
The Megan, that's
Yep.
right.
Spelled with an H, right?
With an H, yeah, Meg
Yep.
Hahn.
Meg Hahn. And 2 kids, Dirks.
That's right, not Dirt, like some people say.
Right.
Dirks.
Dirks Granger.
That's right.
And Magnolia.
That's right, Magnolia.
Or as Dirk says, Nilla.
Nilla, that's right.
Nilla. Manila with a 9. Anyway, that's some old school stuff. Anyway, so Tucker, you are, how would you, obviously you do videography. You do now a homemade podcast. You have the homemade, you and Megan run the homemade apparel store. Instagram, TikTok, every kind of social media out there, roughly.
Roughly, yeah.
And also you're doing design work for the band Macmillan. What show were they originally on? What is it, like America's Got Talent or something like that, or?
I'm not sure. One night I found them on, I think it was just going through Instagram Reels or something.
Yeah.
And one of their songs came on, and it reminded me of another country song growing up. And I just thought, what if I could form a relationship with them, and then hopefully be able to use that as a platform to share Jesus.
Sure. Which is kind of the utmost of what we're all about. That's kind of that Ecclesiastes 13, what's the chief end of man kind of thing. You know, fear God, keep his commandments, love your neighbor, that sort of thing. You have been, for those that don't know Tucker, you have been a part of a lot of things, a lot of works. Where did your education first begin when it comes to this kind of stuff?
Spider-Man 2002.
Spider-Man 2002.
Just having a camera in my hand since I was 9 with starting the VHS tape.
Really?
Yeah, my parents had one, and it was fun. It had an old camcorder, and you literally can put the VHS tape inside of it. But I ended up going to school for it at MTSU for 2 years, finishing up because I went to community college for the first 2 years. But both of those going for like mass communication, video production, film production.
And so you've been using that for the Lord since you became a Christian, I guess, or maybe a little bit before. Or what were you doing before, or
Well, before I was a Christian, I've always used video work, but I thought I was a Christian,
Sure.
And for those of you who don't know, I learned the gospel through my wife back in 2017 because I grew up believing a certain way and realized that what I believed wasn't in Scripture. It was just based off man-made doctrine. So left all that to just simply be in the church that Jesus built, just to simply be a Christian and be just like the New Testament Christians. But like I grew up making Christian videos. Like, I mean, from high school, my buddies and I, we on an iPhone, we put together a film series where every Wednesday night at our youth, we were releasing an episode. And then when I was a senior in high school, we made a 90-minute movie that, it's neat how Providence works, but we made a 90-minute movie based on Christian friendship called Reflections, and it was in the movie theaters, 2 local theaters for 2 weeks, and it was neat. Like the whole town came out.
That's cool.
And sold out shows, and turns out the people that run the movie theater are actually New Testament Christians. And I asked them one day, like once I had left everything to just be a Christian, I said, like, why did y'all do that? And they said, well, I mean, what was shown in it was just friendship. It wasn't anything dealing with doctrine necessarily.
Sure.
So it was so cool, like even Christians back then taking care of myself and our friends as we grew up and grew our faith. But I've been doing it for a long time, but I still have so much to learn.
Sure. Well, you do great work. A couple of
Thank
things
you.
that you've done. You know, you've been part of some great projects that have really helped the church. That's really been, all of our teenagers here at Piedmont Road have seen everything that you've done. A lot of our churches, of course, our theme for this year is 2023 is the authentic Christian. And so, like, we've done, shirts, and we got several things coming down the pike, things that we're wanting to do. But including the card, the card that says the Authentic Christian Podcast, on the other side, a lot of the information that's there. You did great work with the podcast, the Authentic Christian Podcast, for those that you don't know. What kind of things did y'all cover in that?
At first, it was all about building a relationship with your audience. So, like, you started off with easy topics, kind of like, it's easy, but it could be deep. But who is God? Why should you believe the Bible? Evidence behind it. Kind of like trying to treat it like a season 1 of a Netflix show where you get to know the characters, and then, like, the harder things happen. But we talk about everything of, like, questioning some of the hardest things out there. And from when you compare all the man-made doctrines or just denominations, like questions like that, to Calvinism, to why instruments. But the cool thing that I really appreciated about being on it was the knowledge in it, like learning about the early writers, which were people who were Christians in that time right after Jesus ascended back to heaven, and the disciples were sharing the gospel and getting doing the Great Commission and all that. But there's just so much knowledge and Bible tools that I think I will always appreciate about the Authentic Christian.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, when we were to sit down, let's say that we do a Bible study, and whether you get some of Alan Webster stuff, whether you get the Back to the Bible study, whether you do OBS or, something that World Bible School produces, whatever, like we live in a world now where you're not having to convince people that there is just one church. We live in a world today where you're having to convince people that there is such a thing as God.
Yeah.
So kind of where Authentic Christian was going was it began with that, okay, here is God, and this is why he's there. And in kind of a, you walk through people through a certain Bible study, taught them salvation, taught the things that were truth. I also dealt with things of error, obviously, because people have real questions, and like sometimes on Facebook I'll say real questions deserve real answers. Is it peanut butter and jelly today or peanut butter and banana? Those are the questions of my life right now. But so you do a lot with, now you'll have a cartoon that's out, you and Megan, the homemade podcast. That's every one of these things is pointing people to new resources that maybe we've not used in time past. We're here at the Creators Conference today, the Ministry League Experience, and Matt Wallen said something last night, or maybe it was, I can't remember who it was, but last night spoke about that we just seem to be no, it was the Herald of Truth guy. I was talking with Greg Swindle, and he was talking about geofencing and how geofencing is something that we need to be using, and it can be very helpful, and kind of like Facebook ads, picking your target and demographics. We should be about these things because that's where, the Proverbs writer says that wisdom cries in the streets. Well, why does wisdom cry in the streets? Well, that's where the people are. We don't live in a yellow page world anymore. Nowadays it's like, what's your social media page or what's your, websites are even in some degree kind of, people are looking more at socials than they are at websites. Yeah. What have you seen been the most, you did campfire stories, you did your conversion story, what was that called?
We had retitled it to Meet Tucker, a conversion story for like analytics or SEO keyword to be easily searched, but it was originally A Little Cup of Wisdom.
Yeah, A Little Cup of Wisdom, and campfire stories, Authentic Christian. Now you're doing homemade.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, I've been preaching 10 years, and it's amazing where life has taken me and where events have taken me and how things have changed. And I began to do something, and then it turned out to be completely the opposite. And that's the thing is like it's like when I'm preaching. Sometimes I'll think, you know what, that was the best sermon the Brotherhood had ever heard, and everybody should be up here weeping in sackcloth and ashes. Not really, but I can feel good about a sermon that I preached, and people are thinking, well, that was a flop. And then I'll get up there and feel like I just puked all over the pulpit and just had an awful day, didn't sleep good, stone's a mess, whatever, and have 3 people respond, and it's like the Lord doesn't need me to feel one way or the other about my work. He just wants me to do what I need to do, and He'll work it out, Yeah. And it's not in man to direct his steps. We can begin something, but if it needs to take a turn, it will providentially take a turn. And the Lord is very much at work in your work. And that's, Paul told us that it's God working in you, and as we submit to His will, to His Spirit's word, like in Acts 20, one of my favorite sermons that I preach when I go to places, and several folks have asked me to preach this one, but it's Acts 20 and 22, 23, 24, and 25. Paul says, behold, I'm going to Jerusalem. I don't know what's going to happen to me there, except that the Spirit testifies that imprisonment and affliction awaits me. And verse 24 is kind of the crucial hub of that. He says, but I do not consider my life of any value, nor as precious to myself, except this one thing, that I finish the course of the ministry that the Lord has given me, to testify the grace of the gospel of God. So, like, the reason Paul wasn't upset that life did not go the way that he wanted it to was because he didn't think anything of his personal life except Jesus magnified. So, like, if God gets glory in everything that I do, I need to just let Him turn me wherever that's going to be and wherever that's going to look like. Yeah. Thankfully, for like, unlike Paul, we're not over here getting beat everywhere we go. But sometimes it can feel like that.
It did.
Ministry can do that to you, can't it?
It can.
We've had a lot of conversations through the past years, and and that's just the nature of, no matter if anybody sticks their neck out there for Jesus, you're going to get slapped around, you know. And sometimes that's by people that you love. Sometimes it's people that you don't know. I did a reel the other day, and there was a lady comment, and my reel was like, why should I, quote, go to church? And she commented, Christ is not in a building or whatever. And and there's something, like, we're in a building now, and there's some people that can think that the church building is somehow holy, but it's not. Like, it's brick and mortar. Yeah. But anyway, what do you see? What are some projects you're working on now? What do you see moving forward? What are some dreams you have in what you're doing?
Right now, we are focusing a lot on our apparel shop, where we're trying to, like, make shirts that are conversation starters. So if you're out wearing it, like, not only maybe you could, like, encourage somebody, but maybe you could, like, make them question, like, oh, what does that mean? But so we're working on the homemade shop with just, like, shirts, actually adding some kids' clothes to it, like smocks. That's really cool. I can't remember. It's like little dresses for girls.
Sure.
Just trying to grow that, but we're doing some work right now with.
And I'm sure you design those, don't you?
No. Dreaming at night, like all the patterns, like. We're doing some, like, graphic work and video work with the band McMillan, just really for the purpose of just trying to get share Jesus through, like, our apparel. So, like, I mean, they each of their accounts, there's like 1 million Facebook and TikTok, and then, like, YouTube's like 260,000 followers. It's like, if we can just get like 1% of those, like, just to see it,
slice of the cheese,
just to see it, maybe it could help, because I've seen people respond. So, like, I've seen through Authentic Christian season 1 through 3 and the Campfire Stories and a couple wisdom, like, and, like, all the Instagram stuff. I've seen how powerful, like digital door knocking, like, is. And so, no matter where I'm at, like, just want to keep my head down and just work hard for the Lord as best I can. And, like, what I realized now is, like, all that matters is, like, Jesus and living for my family, like, with Meg and the kiddos, and then just doing creative work. And so Meg and I, we've never done really, other than a little wisdom, we've never done a creative, like, work that we're, like, talking to each other. So that's why we started the Homemade podcast, mainly just it's like late at night. We're gonna be we're just recording audio because we're like, let's just talk to each other and talk about parenting and like we got married young and just the struggles that are going on within the world, and also just like funny stuff, like what does it mean, like funny stuff being a parent, and but being just Christians, and so. But then we're like, what if? And so since Dirks is young, we watch Bluey, and we're like, well, what if we turn this into a cartoon? And so like, so I did a lot of like behind the scenes work, and so we launched the cartoons version of it, and so it's really funny just seeing like Meg's reaction to certain things, like, and it just puts a new spin on stuff because I was like, there's no one else doing it, and we didn't do it because of that, but it's like just thinking more about it, it's like, well, no one in the Christian world is doing it, in the Christian culture, but not really many people are doing a cartoon podcast, so it's like, let's just see where that goes. Sure. And I definitely want to get more involved with like cartoon stuff later this year. But really just like, right now we're offering some creative services to people. Like we're working with a couple people making logos, and been a couple of them we're working on. This is probably the second logo we're working on for a Christian's podcast. But I don't know, we're just trying to serve and just make stuff that can be relatable and hopefully can like just share hope and stuff.
Sure. You said something early on about conversation starters. There's something about having something visual that you carry with you, that you serve as a billboard of sorts. So like, how many millions of dollars is spent every year on Super Bowl commercials?
Oh man.
And they know there's a science behind it. So when we're visual people, I like certain pictures. I like certain pieces of art. Things that will. There was a girl, Ellie Leonard. She painted a picture for Freed Hardeman's lectureship about 6 or 7 years ago, and it was about Moses, and he's standing there, and he's parting these waters, and of course it's a violent scene, and you just see this darkened figure that represents Moses in front of this massive amount of water that's just everywhere. And I thought that's exactly how it would have been. Like it would have had to have been a powerful thing to blow that water out of the way, and then to blow the dirt dry. That
dust flying, dust everywhere.
Yeah,
fish.
I mean, in what used to be saturated, wet ground is now just as an old instructor I used to have, Curtis Cates. He used to say, "Brother, that's dry, dehydrated dirt." And, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
And
visuals definitely help. Just see it.
It does, and Stone is in this drawing phase. Nice. He loves to write. He loves to draw.
I wonder where he gets it from.
Yeah, I don't know. And he is, when you were giving your lecture a while ago, he was sitting there drawing out the tackle box and drawing the fishing.
Oh man.
And he likes to draw. He's always liked to draw this depiction of heaven and hell. And because he's got a little book, a Bible, and there's comic in it, in several pieces of it. And one of his favorite that he likes to redraw every time he goes to his Bible is this picture of Jesus and his angels coming down onto the earth.
Wow. And
underneath the earth is like this red glow of evil, and it's just representing final judgment. And he loves to just redraw that every day. And I have a drawing that's in my desk, and it's on a yellow sheet of paper, like a legal pad, and he's got this. It's this. He's got this chair, and that represents this throne, and then God's on this chair, and there's like 50 angels all around it. And he was like, "This is heaven," and he drew it one day in church, and I wasn't even preaching on heaven, and I still can't look at it without squalling,
Like kids, there's just 3, but like some of the stuff he says, like, I mean, he was with us when Meg's grandmother passed away last year, and like we were all in the room, and we were singing hymns, and then Meg's grandmother passed away. But like what he remembers about it is like, oh, she's up there with Jesus. But then he goes, oh, she's not up there, she's down there. But he meant like in the ground, because she was physically buried there. And we're like, but it's just so funny, like what kids see, and then it kind of reminds you of like, wow, like what's really important.
I know, man. And the Lord says, be like them.
Yeah,
have faith like they do.
Like, all right, wear diapers again.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, what you do has always been great. I've always been a supporter of it and always appreciated it.
You've always been there for me.
And use it. That's the thing is like, we got this thing this weekend here at PR, and it's a conference to connect, equip, and go. And Paul Sperlin's really the head of this thing, and I just get to introduce speakers, and drink coffee for free. Thanks, Heritage Christian University. Anyway, yeah, today's
hot
coffee
bean water. That's what
hot bean water. Yeah,
I like it.
Our sponsors are Heritage Christian University and their coffee. But speaking of Heritage Christian, Kirk Brothers is a phenomenal guy. I met
him once, I think.
I was at Exposure in December, and he was making a pitch for the school. And of course, I'm not in a need to go get a preaching degree, because I've already got. But I was like, you know what? I think I need another one. Kirk has just sold me to go back. He's just an energetic guy, and he believes in what he does. And that's the thing. Like whenever I'm training preachers, I will show them a video of Hitler, and Hitler's up there, and you don't know what he's saying because he's speaking in German.
Yeah.
And he's. I mean, now we know he's a monster.
Yeah.
But he's up there, and he's speaking, and he has such power and conviction that he himself he's converted himself, obviously. But he's got so much conviction that he sways an entire country. And the effects of those speeches and his passion is still affect today. Like people still, they even instill that hate in them based off what he's done. So there's something powerful about speech, and there's something powerful about conviction and passion that you have. And it shows out when a preacher preaches in that way. It shows out when a person's having that, Bible studies with people. It shows up in the little widow lady who leaves tracts at the doctor's office, and it shows up in what y'all are doing. If you're passionate about what you do, and we were talking about this earlier, content and quality. When you're passionate about what you do, people take note, and kind of the whole push of this is, especially this weekend, is to say, hey, go.
Yeah.
Just do it, And it's not rocket science.
It's not like limited to a certain box of like you can only do these creative things. Like you don't even have to do social media at all. You can like come up with like the lemonade stand idea, like make it your own, but do something like that, or anything, and like just find a way to like make simple connections. But actually, I talked to a preacher one time, and his mustache is like Hitler's, and he said, "You know why? You know who else has a mustache like this? I'm sure you know who he is." He goes, "Hitler. He was a great leader." And it's like, even though he did some bad stuff, some horrific stuff,
sure,
he did have some good ways.
Sure,
you could find a good way. Well, he knew how to talk and knew how to persuade an audience. Like, what if you could use some of those tactics not to do what he did, but
how to have friends and influence people, Yeah, he was a man. And there's people that deny that even happened. Anyway.
Crazy.
So, ministry-wise, you said that you're working on, this cartoon, and you want to stay in kind of the kids' realm. That's kind of the way it was for me with Petey. It was like, this is my life right now anyway, because Petey's been around, I guess, 3 years now, 3.5 years. Well, it's almost 4. That was the perfect time to have anything like that, And now we were driving home last night, and he was like, pull up Petey on YouTube. And he was like laughing, just cutting up, and he appreciates it more, and he was like, that was in my bedroom, and stuff like that. And
well, like we were watching Peppa Pig for a while, and I really liked it because of just, it's so unique. And then Meg said, well, eventually we're going to have to watch Bluey. And then I was like, okay. So, and usually I'm like, oh, it's not going to be that. It'll be all right. Well, it's so good. Like, it's an Australian cartoon, which is probably good it's made in Australia.
For sure.
If American stuff got a hold of it, it wouldn't be what it is.
It would be agenda-based.
Yep.
And Australia's an atheist country.
Wow.
But still has a moral principle to it.
Yeah, there's so much heart in this cartoon that, like, I think I could just watch it for myself because it's so well done, and so many like good moral lessons you learn from it. You're like,
absolutely,
that the parents are going through, and so like, yeah, right now, like, I think I'd like to stay in that area a little bit, like.
Well, you're going to be there for probably the next 10 years.
yeah.
And how many ever else youngins y'all plan on having? A barnyard full.
That's good.
But yeah, man, it's and nobody does it. There's not much out there. I think cartoon wise and kid content wise, the only thing that I know brotherhood wise that has ever stood out to me or that I know of is like Digger Doug with AP. But
it's I've spent a lot of hours just like research on like how to do it and have a long ways to go, but it's like so possible. Like, I mean, it takes time, but like you can do it. You can make those things that stand out, and that's really was one of the more I've thought about it is just no one's doing it, and especially like there's not people out there in the church, and a lot of it could be resources, but you never know. But we just want to try and do it. We want to see what we can do with it and see. I mean, ultimately, just to share Jesus. It's like using the Bam McMillan as an example. Like, if it can become popular, or go viral or something, not for the sake of just like going viral, but hoping that with what I've seen before with the success of like content creation of whether it be a podcast or a video, it makes people ask questions about Jesus.
Yep.
And then so if they can, how powerful Bluey's stories have affected me and Meg, or what they're doing with the Chosen show, what if we could do that on a smaller scale, and see what happens?
Yeah. Well, I think things like the Chosen, they serve a good purpose. They give us a visual aid, for those of us that are visual learners.
Oh man.
And they're a great. When I watch them, I probably cry every episode.
I saw the behind the scenes of. I haven't watched season 3 yet, but behind the scenes of how they walked on water.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that's just unbelievable.
I know,
like how, and I'm like, and I know Jesus knows this. So I'm like, when I pray to Him, I think of that guy. I'm like, I know it's not you, but I just picture like this has to be someone that was like based on how Scripture describes Jesus, and He described Himself through the Holy Spirit. But
sure. I do.
It's just those visual stuff that helps. So it's like if, we started selling hats a long time ago. We didn't make any money from it, but it was because like I saw you selling hats. But in those hats, because of what you did years ago, we were selling the Authentic Christian hats. We didn't make any profit off of it, but it raised so many questions, and so many people bought them. But like you go out somewhere and someone like, what does that mean? And so it's like if we can make content that just like raises questions or just reminds people of like why they're here.
I think one of the first times that we met, I was filming with Dan Winkler and Stephen Hunter.
Oh yeah,
and we were doing a show, and I said something in the script or whatever on the study. If we do what they did, we become what they were.
Yeah,
and you were like,
this is awesome. Like, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, and I don't know where I picked it up. I don't, but it makes sense. It's like a blueprint, when it comes to that sort of thing is the authentic Christian. Because if a person, let's say that they're very sincere in their faith and they belong to a specific denominations, they're thinking, well, I'm an authentic Christian. And they might come up to you and say that. And to them, to their knowledge, to everything that they know, that they are.
Yeah.
You don't want to discredit any of that. You want to find passionate people who are zealous for the Lord, but there's folks like Paul said in Romans. They have a zeal toward God, but not according to knowledge. So that's it's huge. The Lord does not just need our passion, and there's times where He uses our passion, but then there's times where you're working on projects so much, and Megan, let's say she stubs her toe, the kid's got a snotty nose, and one's got diarrhea. Fill in the blank, and it's been a long day, and the last thing you have is a passion for your project, But the Lord still right. Man, but the Lord uses that despite the lack of passion you have, and
we need more creators.
Yeah, really, and that's one of the things about this concert is that helping people understand what advertisement and what marketing and what you're actually trying to sell, and what's the value of your product and those kind of things. That's huge. Because what happens is, sadly, there's some brethren that will go out and they'll spend the bare minimum on a church bus that the county discontinued from the public school, and it's a rust bucket. And what they'll do is they'll go and slap Bondo and a new paint job across this rickety old bus that's about to break down and cause the demise of all kinds of humans. and they'll put the Lord's name on the side of it, and they'll say, well, that's a good work right there.
Yeah.
No, it's not. The Lord has never spared expenses. I mean, He really hasn't.
Yeah.
You think about the temple in the Old Testament and the articles of the temple and, the Ark of the Covenant, which Indiana Jones found, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And if I could do anything besides preach, it'd be Indiana Jones. Anyway,
do it.
moving on. But the Lord has never spared any expense in anything that He's done. I mean, so much Jesus, obviously, what would cost the most. But there's folks that will do that. They'll keep $400,000 in the bank as a church and say, well, we're saving it for a rainy day. Well, I pray the rain comes and and depletes
so
their
much good
funds.
you can do with it.
Because the reality is that we're stingy. We're stingy, and we're not good stewards, and we operate out of fear, or some churches they'll not do something because, well, the brethren might think this or the brethren might think that. We'll operate out of the sense of fear instead of just doing what we've been called to do, and just let the chips fall where they may. Anyway, as together we stand and sing. I could go on and on about don't spare expenses. Now, we're not talking about go out and blow everything you got, but take pride in what you do. You have something that's valuable. Spend what's worth it. Quality content, and get it out there. And because rest assured, the devil is.
Oh yeah.
The devil's spending all kinds of money getting his product out there, and we got to wake up and be like Tucker Wallace and fam.
Oh man. Be like Jake Sutton.
Speaking of Jake Sutton, we probably should wrap this up.
Okay.
The Bam McMillan, homemade. What else you got working on?
Just some creative side work, or some freelance work, but really that's about it.
If somebody were to say, hey, I want to get a hold of Tucker Wallace and do some projects, how would they best get a hold of you?
You can go to our website on homemadefaithandfamily.com, and that tag or that name can follow you through all our socials. And we'd love to see what you think.
For sure. And y'all got plenty of stuff out there. I mean, stuff from years gone past. I mean, even you got all kinds of content, stuff to share, stuff to give out, stuff to reproduce in a congregational scale. But anyway, well, man, I appreciate you and love what you're doing, and
I'm just a fan of you, man.
Hope to work on a lot of projects together and see what we can rattle the devil's cages here or there.
Let's do it.
All right, man. See y'all later.